Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Quantum Compass. This is episode number 8. My name is Davyd Farrell, as always, one of your co-hosts. And today, as always, I'm joined by my beautiful co-host, the one and only
Bella Alvaran. Hi, everyone.
Right. So we're back in the house and looking forward very positively. We have been in the very beautiful, I would suggest, wave spell of the Blue Night, full of dreaming. And that for sure, that's something that me and Bella have been doing over the last 10 days or so. And we are, of course, still in that wave spell, as we always are when we're recording these shows a few days ahead of time. We generally try to actually record these on day 10 of a wave spell, day of manifestation, because the energy is good for that. And today, being day 10 is also the day that Mars enters Aries. So there's a very strong sense of energy for go, 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 which really coming off the back of the Blue Night wave spell, Bella, and coming into the next one, which you're going to tell us about in a minute, which is, of course, the yellow magnetic warrior, I think is perfect, right? So how do you want to set this up for our audience today with
First
this
of
new
all,
13-day cycle?
yes, first of all, to mention that, yes, we've been doing lots of dreaming. So we're coming from the wave spell of the Blue Night, which was about connect to your bigger dream, go into the void and create from the unseen, because that's what we have the power to do. But funny enough, many people who are Blue Knights came for a reading, for a session as well. So all of these people are like getting activated as we go through all of these different wave spells. So the dreamers that are dreaming for the collective, those dreamers are also getting activated. So we all go together into this new time, the new earth.
I think that's really important what you just said there, because from some of my own meditations and journey work over this period of the dreaming wave spell, I've seen that again the motif is very clear that wherever we go, we all go together, and we're all going towards the new Earth timeline. In fact, we're all on the new Earth timeline. That is one thing that I would like to share with everybody. That's very, very strongly clear for me, and I think many other people too now, is that we have got anchored to the new Earth timeline and are being pulled inexorably towards that destination.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a really nice way to set up this next wave spell. And I think Bella, as always, has got a beautiful presentation for us to talk us through this.
Yes. So let's get into the wave spell that we're going to start on the 4th of May. So again, we go into the cycle of 13 days. And now we've added, or I've added to the reading of the calendar, we're making it the galactic calendar now, which adds the 13 moon calendar plus the Solkin. And when we put those two together, we are synchronizing ourselves with the natural cycles that are connected to the Solkin, which is the sacred calendar of the Mayans. And we're also connecting ourselves to cycles of the moon. So we're integrating the lunar solar calendars into one, and we're setting ourselves in the same frequency, harmonizing ourselves with the galactic constant, which is all connected to the cycles of Sirius, to the cycles of the Pleiades. So we are getting ourselves connected to a much bigger cycle altogether. So the moon that we're going to start on May 2nd, and it goes for 28 days up to May 29th, is the spectral moon of liberation. And spectral refers to the tone, the galactic tone. And what is a spectral is the one that connects us to exactly that, to liberate ourselves from anything that we don't want anymore, because we've been doing so much work. We even did our dreaming, so we know, and we did some discernment, what is good for us moving forward and what is not. So the totem animal is perfect, and it is the serpent. It's the moment we shed our skin. Now that we've been going through all of this healing and all of this dreaming, we're ready to go under the metamorphosis, the big transformation, just like the serpent. So the moon is inviting us to do exactly that, to dissolve, to release, to liberate. And the serpent is getting us to reunite with the energies of the earth, with our Kundalini energy, to call back our life force energy for this new moment of creation that we're entering. And did you want to mention anything about the moon?
Well, I just think it's so beautiful that everything that we're experiencing right now is so coherent,
Mhm.
Bella. And I feel that perhaps the most important thing to continuously share through quantum compass is the idea of coherent resonance. If you're feeling something resonate in your field and it feels coherent for you, then it's got to be something that is holistic and is good. And if it feels incoherent or you feel out or jarred, then maybe it's not coherent for you. And as we move into the fifth dimensional consciousness, in theory, everything should be coherent and everything is going to flow in ways that, as I'm starting to experience myself, is almost, I wouldn't say it's too easy because I don't want to jinx things, but there is a coherence to fifth dimensional frequency and
There is
thinking.
flow.
It is flow, exactly. And you know, the energy of the totem animal, the serpent, shedding of the skin. We are now, after the events, particularly of the recent Mars and Neptune conjunction, some big stuff was removed from the collective, which is going to give us all the chance to shapeshift into something new. And I think that when we shared the blue night dreaming on the last wave spell, we were really encouraging everybody to do the same thing that we've just done, which is to not put blockages in the way of what your dreams could look like. Because when you get through into this new emergence, this metamorphosis, as that conjunction was outlined by the Sabian symbol that it rested on just a few days ago, we're being encouraged to think of ourselves in a completely different form. Does the caterpillar realize it's going to be a butterfly before it becomes a butterfly? Maybe it has friends on the other side who came back and said, hey, I used to be your buddy, he was a caterpillar, now I'm a butterfly. So I somehow doubt it. So when we go through that process of change, we don't really know what we're going to become. That's part of the exciting part of it. And I think that we've got all of these supporting energies of liberation and, you know, snake skin shedding. So yeah, really beautiful. Perfect, in fact.
Good. And together with the liberation and the metamorphosis, we also want people to understand that these reconnecting with these natural cycles, with the Solkin, which is the sacred calendar, reconnects us with the qualities of the day, rather than a day being just a number in a Gregorian calendar. It has a quality, and that quality are a series of codes that are inside us, are connected to our body, are connected to the collective archetypes that are in the Akashic as well. So it's a natural way to reconnecting with the universe through synchronicities, speaking the same language. And here I just highlighted the glyph that we'll be working with for the next 13 days. It's called the Yellow Warrior. And on the Solkin, the wave spell starts here with day number 196. This is the glyph of the warrior. And then we're going here on this column. And then we end here on day 208. Right? So we're getting to the end. We're getting towards the end of this cycle. It ends on day 260, which is in July 7th, I believe.
Right, and this is really important, and hopefully you're going to allude to this a little bit later on, but just to draw attention, as always, to our viewers, please do check out the green squares, because those days are galactic portals. They are very important. I feel probably we're going to talk more about galactic portals a lot more in the future, because certainly we work with them, and they're an opportunity to receive something, or even to send something. You can say it's an opportunity to speak to the universe, the cosmos, the galactic center even. So those, I believe, are on day 2, Bella, and what is that, 2, 3, 4, 5?
It's like having the bandwidth open to the quantum field on those days. Like
yeah,
the
so they're
bigger
day 2 and they're day 2 and day 8. So just to pop those in your diaries. And as always, recommend having your own astral navigation journal, because there is a lot of information to take in these days. But I find that the simple process of putting it onto paper allows me to feel into the flow. And also I can use it as a reference guide. So
yeah. So this wave spell is called the Yellow Warrior or Yellow Magnetic Warrior. And the qualities of this archetype are fearlessness, planning. This is the moment we start strategizing. After all of the dreaming we did in the last wave spell, now we do our planning, our strategy with our intelligence, with mindfulness, with determination. We empower ourselves. This also connects us to our inner guidance. We've been learning to discern more and more. It's also a glyph that connects us to galactic transmission and conduit, to divine communication, cosmic consciousness, and to the interdimensional guides. So powerful, powerful wave spell. And as we'll see with the astrology, is very connected to this entering of Mars into Aries. So our warrior self is now ready to take on the projects to move forward. And it's part of the some of the qualities of this glyph as well are connected to the owl, to be able to see, to also question things, and to reconnect to the power of intelligence, as I said before. So this wave spell goes from the 4th of May through the 16th. And some of the shadow that we should be paying attention to here is not trusting your inner guidance, or feeling disempowered, feeling too small, or feeling that, oh, I can't do that, or somebody else has the power, I need somebody else's approval or recognition or help. You need to be able to feel empowered and listen to your inner self. Transformation for this: access that divine guidance, leave your comfort zone, embrace the challenges, see the obstacles that are there as opportunities, question all the information that comes your way, including these, like discern what resonates and what doesn't. Confront and transcend any kind of fear that is still stuck there, especially those that are preventing you from stepping into your spiritual warrior self. Use your mind, your will, and your connection to spirit, and trust your intelligence. That is like the recommendations for those 13 days starting on May 4th. Do you have anything to add there?
Well, I mean, just I think really, hopefully, what is becoming apparent to our regular viewers is just the continuity that one wave spell flows to the other, and coming out of a dreaming spell, which is great, which is more of the mind, we could say more of the element of air. We want to go into a place of action, and we want to make things happen, but we need to have a plan to do that. So it's all good being in a dreamy space, but that's not really super productive. And lo and behold, what comes next? We've got this beautiful, powerful glyph, which is going, okay, so what have you got in your dreaming space? What 4 or 5 things, or 1 or 2 things, or however many, you know, obviously within reason of what you can manage. And what's your strategy now? Even from a 5th dimensional perspective, there still needs to be a strategy, because there needs to be a process of implementation. That's, we can say, part of the game, and it's part of the fun. And I think as we move forward more collectively, more coherently, Bella, into this kind of place of 5D consciousness, we're going to start to understand these processes and how they work much more easily. But still, we're in a learning process right now.
Yeah, and be fearless this time. That's what we did so much shadow work, so much of the core wounds, because we need to get to this point of fearlessness.
Yeah.
Good. And the same, remember, it's the same questions over 13 days, starting on day 1. Identify your purpose. So you did lots of dreaming. Now, what is it that you want to move forward with? What is your one project or your idea? What is it you want to move forward now? And then you can ask all of those questions over the next 13 days. That is very much it for the Mayan information.
Well, thank you, Bella. And as always, I think what you so beautifully do is give us the basic foundation, we can say, of the qualities that are coming towards us in the next few days, and will then develop over the next 13 days during that particular wave spell. And you know,
I also want people to compare that there are 13 moons and 13 days. It's all a fractal. And then you could think of a bigger cycle of fractal when you think about 13 years, and then a cycle of 52 years, a cycle of 26. You know, 13 and 52 are super important within all of those cycles. 260, because it's 13 times 20 makes the Solkin, which is 260 energies. So there is a series of numbers here that are part of the connection of us to the cosmos and to everything else. And what you want to think about is that this is like a creation process where there is an expression through the magnetic force. You identify the purpose. So there is an expression, then there is an experiencing, then there is an integration and a transcendence of all of these information or this process. And you do it in a small scale as 13 days, but you also do it in a cycle of 260 days, which is the Solkin, or you could take it to the whole year if you combine it with the moons and so forth. You could take it to different bigger cycles.
Brilliant. And before you just go back to that slide. And so before you jump off that, I just want to draw again people's attention to day 8, the day of integrity or integration. Those day 8s are always the same glyph as the previous wave spell. And what I found is once I kind of got my mind or more attuned to that, or my energy feel more attuned to that, I was able then to look back and say, how am I integrating the energies of the previous wave spell, the previous 13 days? Now, it's quite a short integration process, but what you start to realize when you work with these 13-day dream spells in a more kind of fifth dimensional way is that stuff gets integrated and processed very, very quickly if you get out of the way of yourself. And from a 5D perspective, there shouldn't be any blockages.
You can see the example here. So on day 8 of this wave spell, we have the blue night, which is what we did the wave spell before. That's exactly what you are explaining there. We integrate what we did before on this wave spell, and then there is always a continuity of this process.
And I kind of like to think of that as being a quick review days. Like, it does mean other things too. It's not only about that, but it's like, okay, so how is your integration process from your dreaming spell going in this process of strategization, mindfulness, determination? It's really a very strong energy of the warrior mind, we can say, which is to strategize, to plan, and to make sure that whatever your crusade is, your quest is, that it comes out victorious, it comes out successful, it comes out integrated, it comes out complete, and comes out whole. So as always on these Quantum Compass shows, my job is to gather some of the important dates for this wave spell and to pick out some of the key themes. And as we always say, there are dedicated shows from many wonderful astrologers out there who go into these more deeply. But what we're always trying to do is bring the very essence of the transits, the powerful transits, and sometimes to pick out some that other people haven't seen, as we've seen with asteroids like Iris. Sometimes they come to us in a way that maybe other astrologers haven't picked up on. And I think that's part of the beautiful collective energy that we're all going to experience more and more going forwards, is that we're all working as a team. And I'm seeing more and more astrologers being so in the flow and, channeling really what I sometimes feel is the collective mindset that wants to express itself through the astrology they're sharing. So again, huge gratitude to our brothers and sisters doing that work in the astrology field. But to come to this wave spell, I picked out what I see as the 4 major things going on. There are a few others too, but we enter into this really still with Mercury doing his thing in Aries, and he still has a little bit of work to do, but by the end of this wave spell, he's basically done it. So on what we would call day 3, or in the Gregorian calendar as May the 6th, it's quite late in the evening here in the Americas, certainly in Mexico time, so it's probably for many people earlier in the day, but Mercury conjuncts Chiron at 21 degrees of Aries. Now, my feeling on this is that this is really a kind of another communication coming to us. How have you done your process? Mercury went retrograde all the way back through Aries, hitting Chiron the first time round, hitting Venus, and also the North Node, and many other things. There's quite a lot of action, really, we can say. And now he's moving forward, and it's like, okay, we did all that review work, and here we are now. And whatever small pieces of healing may still need to be done, they're going to be communicated with you for release, I would say. Not even necessarily do an awful lot more of the work that should have already been done. If it hasn't, well, then maybe it's going to come up more strongly. But I feel very much better that Mercury conjuncting Chiron around this position, which for those of you who follow Stellar Nations is very close to Beta and Katos, the Hall of Mirrors, is your chance to make sure that you're not still in the Hall of Mirrors. The mirrors are communicating with you and your wounding, and Mercury is the messenger of that. So I think that's a very, very important day to pay attention to, but it comes really as a preview to I would say, the big piece of this wave spell, which is the new moon at 18 degrees of Taurus. Now, we'll get more into the chart of that in a minute, along with the other one, which has generally, I feel, been overlooked somewhat by other astrologers. Maybe it's the nature of it. Maybe it's a little more difficult to read, but there's been a lot of focus on the upcoming Jupiter Cazimi, which will actually be in the following wave spell on May the 18th, but we're very much coming into the energy of all of that in this month of May, with a lot of action in Taurus, the energy very much of the body, of the earth, and of all of those kinds of qualities. It's one of the fixed signs. And, there's also the energies of, let me think, there's 4 planets. I think we're going to have Uranus, Mercury, and Venus all in the sign of Taurus during the month of May. So we've got a bit of a stellar stellium going on there. And so we then have this wonderful Uranus Cazimi, which I'll go into a little bit more with the chart on day 10, which is a powerful day. It's the day of manifestation. This is a day when the sun conjuncts Uranus, literally just 5 days before the sun will then conjunct Jupiter at that very potent sort of 28, 29 degrees of Taurus. So a little bit of a preview. I'll talk about that a bit more. And then finally, very much towards the end of this wave spell, Mercury will enter Taurus. And we'll have finished that, I feel, Bella, sort of a process of examination of me, myself, and I, energy of Aries, I am. And so Mercury, along with Chiron, really wanted to investigate our sense of who am I? What am I doing here? Am I misguided in my sense of self? Am I fulfilling my sense of self? Anything that you wish to add to that kind of
Yes,
review of the process there, Bella?
yeah, that all of this is happening with this big energy of Mars entering Aries, which is another cycle of about 2 years. So we have a lot of energy on our side to move forward, and it's activating that warrior energy, which is the one of the wave spell we're working with. It's giving us that hero power focus. Like, okay, focus on what you want, bring your intelligence, be fearless about what's going to happen here, and just move forward. Step into your courage and your bravery and your sovereignty. So it feels like we have so much support now to have those initiatives, innovation. What do you want to bring to the world? Do you know your gifts? So that if you know your gifts, you know how to work coherently on these projects and new ideas that we want to bring for New Earth.
I totally agree. And, you know, even though we covered this somewhat in the last show, in the last wave spell, the energy of Mars entering Aries in this particular transit will go on until June the 9th, but it's also really coming straight off the back of Venus entering her home sign of Taurus. And I think that's very interesting that those two very personal planets of Mars and Venus, the masculine and the feminine, we can say, entering their own home signs and being very strong in those signs. And also just to add to what you kind of said there, you know, these things are finally coming up for us, you know, things that we've been working on are coming to fruition. Mars has just gone through, I would say, this quite difficult process actually in Pisces. Mars in Pisces is not necessarily the easiest of fits anyway, but Mars is okay. He kind of gets to do his shape-shifting thing in Pisces, but he had to encounter Daddy Saturn en route, and then he had to encounter Uncle Neptune, who's full of tricks and mystery and illusion, particularly in its own sign of Pisces. And we definitely had some of that mixed bag energy, I would say, for Mars, particularly over the last little bit of this last wave spell, whilst that conjunction happened in, we can almost say, the anaretic degree of Pisces. So Mars has kind of gone on this journey of awakening. And when we think of Mars in Aries being about us and I am, it's like, it's kind of saying, hey, you just went on this process of awakening in the very last sign of the zodiac in Pisces. And with Neptune being that sense of illusion, it's like, are you still lost in the illusions? Are you lost in the fog? Or are you getting a much clearer sense of who are you and what are you doing here? And I think that as we move forward, Bella, what you've been sharing with the Mayan Time and Magic course and what we do with this show is really to start bringing people into the more cosmic sense of who am I actually? I'm not just Davyd, I'm not just Bella, I'm not just Bob and John and, you know, whoever else. It's like, no, I'm actually something much more than that. And you know, I know you've talked about this on other shows before, but the understanding of our Mayan glyph gives us this much more cosmological sense of who we are. And when you add into that the Antares code from the stellar nations, you're getting this much bigger picture of your, you know, your cosmic karmic self. And I think that with that there's an expansion that comes, which is really what we're going to start to experience with this Jupiter Cazimi coming up at the end of May. But before that, we have this wonderful new moon in Taurus, which I just want to talk about a little bit. Again, dibs to our colleagues, particularly Pam Gregory and Molly McCord, who we both love and respect for their work. They've done some wonderful shows on this. But just to dip in from my own perspective, so let me just have a look at my notes a second. It's a very powerful time for us to start growing into whatever it is that we've been dreaming about, whatever it is that we want to put down as foundations, whatever it is maybe that's going on in our body. A lot of people have had to go through body processes, including me, maybe realignment, maybe releasing, purging, cleansing, detoxing. And all of this is really, really important for the very obvious and simple reason that if you're carrying density, it doesn't allow in light. If you're misaligned, it's difficult to be a channel. And, you know, all of those things are really, I would say, prerequisite requirements to enter into the new Earth timeline fully. And that's something that's open to everybody. But like with anything worthwhile, Bella, there needs to be some kind of direct action. And maybe this is one of the energies of this yellow warrior. It's like, how much are you still not in alignment with your true self? Have you been dreaming from your authentic self, or have you been dreaming in the old paradigm way of thinking? And, from my own perspective over the last wave spell, what my guides were really encouraging me to do, Bella, was not to dream in a format that used the old timelines, the old paradigm as the container, which is difficult. It's like, well, how can I dream in something I don't know about? And they're like, that's part of the fun. You don't know what it's going to be about, but all we want you to do is dream from a place of like, not how do I do this, but what do I want to do? How do I want to create something that's not in the way that I would have done it before? If I put blockages, I don't have this resource, I don't have this software, I don't have this contact, da, 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 da. They're like, no, put all of that out and dream from a place of like, how would you like it to look? And think from that much more creative place. But this new moon in Taurus is really giving us the opportunity to put that intention clearly into the ground ahead of a wonderful full moon that we have coming up in a couple of weeks in Sagittarius.
So that it is one of the most, maybe one of the best new moons of the year, probably the best, because it not only is it in Taurus, which is resources and Mother Earth and finances and food and amazing things. We have Venus in the same sign, and we have Jupiter as well. So I think many new things, and we have Uranus, which is like, okay, let's do the new thing here. Now that we're all playing in the same place, I feel like there is a new reset for what's good to come, for the new projects, for the new quantum projects. I had an amazing meeting this morning with a group of very awake people who already are thinking quantum, and they are bringing the new technology, new devices, new ways of working with plants, new ways of working with frequencies and crystals and wonderful things. And we'll be talking more about those in quantumplanet.world, but it seems like this is what wants to happen now. Let's go quantum, and we're having support to do this and to do this kind of planning and strategies.
Wonderful. And, as someone who's been working with quantum energy for a little while, it's a mindset shift, and it does require some mental gymnastics, or even a little bit of rewiring, we can say. And there are definitely some plants that are useful for that. They're not in our list for today, but I just would like to draw people's attention to a wonderful medicinal mushroom, which is lion's mane. Actually, originally recommended to us from our wonderful guide, Zachariah, and our friend Janet, who channels him. He mentioned this many moons ago, and he said, this is really, really good for rewiring the neural pathways in the brain, and you'll want to do that very soon. I remember him saying this was about a year and a half ago, so that you can receive new types of ways of processing information. And I wouldn't say thinking, because that's kind of not the right word, but new ways of experiencing the information that will come into your more 3D bodies. So, and also, there are some interesting kind of dynamics here. In that Taurus is very much always kind of thinking about things from a safety first point of view, stability, long term. So I tend to think of that more as foundations from the ground up, without it necessarily having to be so fixed or stubborn in the way that the fixed signs of Taurus and Scorpio can be sometimes. It's like, no, which is where I think there's sort of the more counterpoise energy of Uranus comes in, which wants us to jump quickly, to have new goals, to have bolts of lightning to the psyche. It's like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's do that. Something that talks about, hey, but what about this? We need to think about safety and health and all of these things first. And no. Uranus is like, let's just do it. And I think that could be challenging in some places for people to hold that more Uranian impulse of like creativity and Taurus, like, hey, but what about thinking about all of the security aspects of this? And I think that's part of the interesting dynamic. But what Uranus really wants us to do, I think, Bella, is to outgrow those things that don't serve us anymore, and a bit like that serpent, really, to shed the skins of how we were doing things before and embrace the foundational qualities of Taurus in a way that harmonizes both.
You know what else I'm getting with this? To simplify things, make things easy, make things faster, simplify and go quantum. Like, don't go doing steps 1, 2, 3, 20. Yes, think of the outcome, but yeah, it can be done quicker. It can be simplified because now we're using our intelligence and all of the previous work that we've had.
Which in many ways is really where the the dream spells come, and you could have that inspirational idea right at the beginning of or even in the middle of a wave spell, and then carry that forwards and say, hey, I think I can make this work in the next wave spell or this one. And you can look into the calendar and see where that idea might fit. But if you're working with Uranian energy, probable chances are that it's something that wants to work with you right now. So again, we're trying to give all of these containers and star maps, we can say, about how to work with energies as they come in, and not to discard the ones that don't seem to fit very well, but to see if you can harmonize all of them. And this whole kind of energy, I think, is really encouraging us to do that. So that's kind of it, really. Also, just to say that the new moon is sextiling Saturn in Pisces, which is a nice kind of transit to add to this kind of harmonizing energy of structure, stability, but also I think of creativity and how to, it's exactly how we do the immersions. It's like there's a container, but there was a fluidity of the organic process inside of that. And I think that that's really the way to move forwards, is make sure you've got your container, but allow space for things to flow.
And this new moon is going to be trine in Ceres as well. You can see it here. But what I want to say about that is it's reminding us, think about the earth on these new ideas and on these new projects. Do think about the earth as being the main part of it. Is your project also going to help the earth? It's bringing solutions to whatever the earth needs at the moment. So I think it's a big reminder of that. Yes, there are many new opportunities, but let's reconnect to that as well, to Pachamama.
Right, and just to point out a few other interesting aspects, which we're not going to go into too much in detail, but for those of our viewers who like to look at the more slightly unusual aspects, we do have a couple of other things. I'm noticing here that Vesta is in a square to Lilith, which I suspect could be a little challenging on some level. And also, it's not marked on this this chart, but Manwë, the creator god in the Tolkien mythology, the archangel rather, who's closest to the mind of God, is actually around 3 degrees of Aries, so conjunct that Mars energy. So I feel very much, again, that energy of creation is there, the fire of Mars, let's go, let's do this, but also placing yourself at the center of that. I know who I am, but with a simple, steady, step-by-step process moving forwards. And the internal state is harmonized, is slow and observing, but the external state is able to work with the energies of creation. And I think that that's kind of the balance that we're trying to find, this sort of calm center, but outwards, dynamic motion forwards.
And with that Venus and Jupiter and Uranus there in that new moon in Taurus, it could be about new developments in crypto or in blockchain, in financial systems. So let's think about quantum financial systems moving forward that benefit us all. And we get to decide how they work so that they do work for us and they do work for the earth. Good. Can we move to the next one now?
Yeah, let's move on to the next slide. So this one is a little more unusual, and it's kind of tracking a process that we've been looking at, and also that I've been looking at with Leslie in the Cosmic History Codes, which is the journey of our sun, or Solana, meeting various family members in approach of a big family reunion, we can say, that is coming up with this Cazimi, but with the Jupiter Cazimi. But lo and behold, this one had kind of crept under the radar, even for me, until a few days ago when I was doing the research. And this is a Uranus Cazimi in Taurus. So Bella has helpfully marked that out at 23 degrees of Taurus, and this happens 5 days before the much talked about Jupiter Cazimi, which I think is very, very powerful, and we'll be talking about in the next show. But just to give some of my own notes on this, Bella, this is how I'm understanding the energy of Uranus. It's at 23:06. It does happen very, very early in the morning here in Mexico. So it's probably going to be around 10, 11 o'clock GMT, Universal Time, I think. And this is really a transit of excitement, unexpected change, freedom, and rebellion. Potentially, those are very much the qualities of Uranus. There could be a strong urge to break from your normal routines and to do something different from your normal activities. Again, very Uranian impetus. Let's switch up, do something different. But what I like about this, of course, is that this transit will open your consciousness to higher vibrations, perhaps resulting in greater self-awareness, maybe even psychic perception, which is very much part of the process of becoming a new Earth citizen. We are becoming more multidimensionally aware, not just of the 4th dimension and the 5th dimension, but actually many other dimensions, realms, and timelines. We are understanding that we are truly cosmic beings. Maybe even we're starting to realize that we're avatars temporarily manifesting into these 3D spacesuits, which, by the way, are also incredible pieces of technology, as some of us have long suspected, but haven't quite been able to get to because there wasn't enough light on the planet. So I think that this Uranus Cazimi is giving us the opportunity to remain flexible and open-minded, but will increase the chances of meeting more like-minded people, more pleasant surprises happening, maybe even a little bit of a thrill factor, if that tickles your fancy. And, I think it's giving us a little preview. Maybe we can even say a sort of an extra volt, to charge even to the Jupiter Cazimi coming on the 18th. And what do you think, Bella? Do you have any feelings around this one?
I agree. I think it's like electrifying the sun and telling the sun, okay, let's bring all of these cosmic codes, let's get this moving forward. And it's everything we were talking about the new moon. So it's even giving more power to the new moon so that we can be our warrior selves and bring all of those new codes, not only for us, but for the projects we've been talking about. It's like, yes, go quantum. You're getting ready for it. And Jupiter is just going to go and expand everything on the 18th.
Exactly. And what's really beautiful is that this happens on day 10. It's day of manifestation. So if I was to put those two pieces together, I would say what we're building towards is a very interesting combination with the strategizing, the mindfulness, the centeredness, but also with all of that energy in Taurus, which fits really well with this wave spell. I would suggest is like, okay, are you ready for liftoff? Are you ready for that Jupiterian expansion? And of course, that whole new moon in Taurus is also really, I think, activating the potentiality of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that just happened about 10 days or a couple of weeks back. And as we move forwards, it's a new moon. So it's really, really important to set those intentions, because then we're going to be moving into a full moon in Sagittarius, which is going to be much more about higher mind realizations, I would say. But when I think about that in terms of the new Earth timeline, what I really see is that the light bulbs are going to go on much more collectively. And, on the one hand, yes, the goggle box and the illusion are going to be playing out their last hands, because we are in the last round of the poker game that we're all being sat in for the last 4,000 years. And the last hands are being played. And as it turns out, the light has the winning hand. And, we have this kind of dynamic. So we're being encouraged to think very much about this positive timeline and not to really get too wrapped up in what may be happening through the illusory perspectives that I think Neptune in Pisces is still giving out a little bit. That's kind of like the initiating point, I think, into this new Earth timeline process, which Mars has just kind of taken us through, I feel. And there was a lot of purification that's just happened, a lot of incineration, a lot of fire alchemy has happened. And hopefully many of our viewers out there are feeling like we are, which is a lot lighter and able to receive more light, which actually is very much in connection with some of the plants that we talked about last time, right? We talked about St. John's wort as being the plant, which is Hypericum perforatum, able to receive more light. But we also have a couple of plants for this show, unless you have something else you wish to add first, Bella.
Before we move to the plants, I want to remind people that we are receiving a lot of energy, more light, more photons, more information, and here the importance of remaining grounded. Yes, we are moving forward, but we still need to be grounded, reconnected in Taurus. All of this is happening in Taurus. Make sure that you're still connected to the earth and grounded, and you have your roots and good bases now that we're ready to move forward. So we can move like yarrow. You want to talk a little bit about yarrow?
Yeah, so I just selected a few images for this wonderful plant, and hopefully many of our audience will know this wonderful plant. Its name in Latin is Achillea millefolium, as the wonderful card. I think that's from Philip Carr-Gomm's Druid pack, with the illustration from, I think, Bill Worthington. Wonderful pack that I used for many, many years, and has the energy of the snake, lo and behold, Bella, very much in attunement with the totem animal. And also we can see that very sort of phallic, potent symbol of the seed of life, perhaps we can say, and the serpent on the Celtic cross stone in the background. But that's not necessarily why I chose this card, although I think that the image of fertility and seeds and new life and a new earth is very, very important. But the reason that I chose this card is because this is really the card of the warrior, the spiritual warrior. And, this card is very connected to Achilles. And of course, Achilles was very much a student of Chiron. And the story goes that when Chiron was teaching Achilles about how to heal. He showed Achilles how to have, basically, we can say Olympia or a bath with yarrow in it. And what yarrow would do is that wherever there were cuts in the, in Achilles' body from whatever wars he'd been in, that magic of yarrow would get into the wounds and basically make Achilles invincible. And Achilles then basically shared that with his warriors, and he would heal them with a plant that sometimes goes by the name of staunchweed and is very, very good at binding wounds and staunching the flow of blood. It's actually a plant that I am intending to use very much in my own healing process moving forwards. It's also the plant that I used to use, Bella, a lot in my clearing practice to basically bind energetic rips when I was doing psychic surgery on people. Wonderful, wonderful plant. And, I've shared before, but the mantra or magic of yarrow, we can say, is intentional restraint. This is a plant that doesn't like fuss, doesn't like drama, just wants to heal quickly and say, okay, next, what's going to happen after this? I don't need to know the drama of how did this
Keep it
happen. I don't
simple.
need to know. Keep
Yeah.
it simple, right? Yes, there's a problem. Yes, it needs healing and solving. Yes, we're going to fix it, but let's move on quickly and not dwell in the past and keep that energy hanging around. So this is a plant that's very, very efficient. And along with wormwood, I would say these are the two plants I like to work with when I'm doing strategizing and planning, because they want to use our energy in the most efficient and focused way possible. And at the same time, this is also a very, very protective plant too. And as we move through the final stages, perhaps, of any healing processes that we want to do before May the 18th, which I would definitely recommend all of our audience to look at, is like, if you are still waiting for something to happen in your healing process, I have to ask the question, why? What are you waiting for? This is an opportunity. The new Earth timeline is anchored. The possibilities of 5D consciousness are here. And the only thing now that is going to stop you from doing that is your own self getting in the way of things. And yarrow is a plant that really is just going to come in and say, hey, we don't need all the time for that. We just want to get on with things. We want you to get to new Earth as quickly as possible so that we can all have fun doing exactly what you just said, Bella, which is creating.
And when we're talking here about the archetype of the yellow warrior in the Mayan, that glyph, and then we also have Mars moving into Aries. Now we have Yarrow as well. So there are many warriors, but here we're talking about not the warrior that is aggressive or that is looking for conflict. Is quite the opposite. It's a mature, awakened warrior, like a Zen warrior who's already done all of the shadow work and now is ready to be more Zen and to move forward with ideas, with projects to support the light, to bring more light to the planet. A spiritual warrior.
And you know what? That's a really important point, actually. I just want to add something, Bella, that I didn't add from the Uranus Cazimi, which is the shadow side, or the more place you have to be careful with that Uranus Cazimi is the electrical expression and the impulse energy that it can give. And one of the warning signs around that was, don't take unnecessary risks, because it's Uranus and accidents are always possible. Cancel, delete, as we would say. But also don't feel the need to rebel against authority for the sake of it. And again, the goggle box is showing a lot of those potential divisions and confrontations. And I see from the image of Achilles, we can see buildings of power on fire. Now, that may or may not happen for some elements of the collective who want to vent their frustration, but that is not the kind of warrior we're talking about. That is an expression of people's frustration. And it's not really necessary to get involved in that, because A, you could end up getting hurt or in trouble, but also it's not the best use of your energy, right, Bella? It's not productive.
No. Here is more about being brave, being honest, being in integrity, being in your power, being courageous, fearless, but fearless because you have all of the inner light after doing your inner work. You know that you are in your power, in your heart, and you're working for your highest good and the highest good of all, including the planet. So it's a very different type of warrior energy.
Right, and as always,
Higher octave.
I have my yarrow tincture right here, which I always take before we do these shows, because yarrow is also very much, at least in my tradition, connected to the throat chakra for a number of reasons. And perhaps we've had blockages in expressing ourselves, but also the throat chakra also is linked to the rear throat chakra, which is, of course, the psychic chakra, which I think is something that's going to come very much online increasingly for people. Their psychic skills are going to get elevated because there's going to be more light. The astral plane is going to be more visible, as I think it already is. And many people are now starting to express what I've been seeing for the last couple of weeks, that there has been a complete collapse. There is no old paradigm construction now in the astral plane. So I think the yarrow is going to be very helpful, Bella, in helping us to come to a place of confidence to speak from our authentic selves.
Yeah, I agree. And also talking about the throat chakra and the respiratory system, I've been taking Mullein already. If there is still anything that you need to clear from your chest, from your lungs, from your sinus, all of these, there are still blockages that you could remove. Mullein is amazing for that. But more than that, we did an amazing immersion at the end of last year with bringing the light, the sword of light. And that's what Mullein taught us how to do. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I think you already summed it up quite nicely, but it's a wonderful, beautiful plant we can see. It really commands a position in the garden, particularly when it's allowed to grow fully like that. I mean, what a glorious looking specimen that one is. And there are a number of different mullein species, and, you know, it does have this quality of the sword of light. It's a torch bearer. And I would suggest at this time that as we move forwards and perhaps into somewhat uncertain territory for some people, that certainly, the vanguard of the New Earth timeline are a collection of beings here on the planet who are holding aloft their swords of light and saying, there is nothing to fear. We have Archangel Michael at our back. We have the support of, I don't know how many beings, but it's countless. The planet is very, very much in a safe space right now, and we are being very much encouraged to strike forth into maybe we can say a dark space that we don't know, but it's not a dark space to be afraid of. It's a place of creativity, and we are going to go in there and shine our light and say, hey, I want to create in this space. What am I going to create? There is nothing to be afraid of anymore. There is no place for manipulation or intimidation, even, we can say. And I love mullein. It's such a beautiful plant. It's very, very crown chakra, very connected to Archangel Michael and the higher dimensions, particularly the fifth dimension. And working with this plant and working in conjunction with yarrow is really going to open up the upper chakras. And if you wanted to get really excitable, you could chuck a bit of wormwood or the artemisias in there and activate the throat, the third eye, and the crown chakras. You can, of course, always work with more than one plant at a time. So that's it, Bella. I think really on the plants, we have been sharing a little bit with our QPH community that the plants are also wanting to evolve into a different space, and they're wanting us to think much more creatively now. And what the plants have shared with me is something quite interesting. And they're like, you know, in the old days, in the old world of healing, we had to go into deep spaces with all of you, and we had to kind of make ourselves small in terms of plants, relatively speaking, in comparison to the size of these beings, to match how you perceived yourselves. We could see that you guys perceived yourselves as small human beings, which is like saying that we're only small plant beings, which is not true at all. We're actually huge. We can even say 26 dimensional beings or higher dimensional beings with all kinds of quantum intelligence. And we want you to start thinking of yourself in the same way. And thus, at least with our community and what we're doing, we are being very much guided to start channeling, communicating with the plants in a way that allows them to express their much bigger galactic consciousness, which I think is super exciting.
Yeah. So I think all of these wave spell and the astrology are basically telling us there are really good opportunities for the next 13 days, starting on the 4th. Opportunities of abundance, of new resources, of new projects, ideas, of good, beautiful connections, of creating. So this is just to encourage everybody to dream big. All of those dreams that we had in the last wave spell, let's bring them into fruition. Let's talk to some people, have some connections, and make them happen.
And also at the same time, before we come to that, Cazimi, if we do still have some little bits of areas of our shadow that haven't been fully illuminated, now is the time to do that, because you want to be in the best shape possible to receive the wonderful energies of that Jupiter Cazimi on the May 18th, and also to be able to receive as much light as possible. And I think that that's just good homework and good self-care, really. And of course, that's good self-loving. So all of which definitely recommend. So Bella, what's all this about? I know we've talked about it before, but I've had so much fun and value from doing this course. What would you like to share?
Well, this is on the same line of owning your power, empowering people, So the course is now up on quantumplanet.world, is the course with the Mayan time and magic. All the modules are now uploaded. You can buy it at any time. And what is teaching people to do, there is really good feedback, is to find out what are your gifts, what are your talents, what did you come to do, what is your mission? Because by age 52, you should be really walking your mission and sharing it with the world. How do you combine this with astrology? When is your next galactic birthday? How do you work with the galactic calendar, which is the Solkin plus the 13 moons? So we've been learning a lot about many other things. I mean, you did the course as well. Do you want to share anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been blessed enough to be living and working with you for the last 2 years anyway, so I've been practicing this. But what this course has really done for me is given me a very easy to use reference guide. So every day I have my wave spell diary, and I go in and I reread and reattune, we can say, to the glyph of the day and the tone of the day. And what I'm doing, particularly in my kind of, we can almost say, sensory deprivation tank here, living on my flying mattress while I'm healing, is that I would say, really fully adjusted across to living in this kind of 1320 time cycle, which is much more creative. It keeps me very much in the present. And if I didn't have that anchor, actually, Bella, I think I would have found this process a lot more difficult. But also what it's allowed me to do is to, I can say, explore my multidimensional nature much more fully, and also understand that my glyph, the cosmic skywalker, is really all about communicating the fifth dimensional consciousness, which is what I try to do with you on this show and through most of the videos I do, which is to try and transmit what New Earth is going to look like, what it's going to feel like, and how do we navigate it, because that's bringing heaven, 5D, down to Earth, 3D.
And funny enough, on the last few days, lots of Skywalkers came to a session to get activated. So really good, because you guys are now being the ones bringing the information, the interdimensional information as well. And so through the course, you get to understand what is your glyph, what can you do, reconnect with the synchronicities of the world, of the universe, because that's how you know you're on the right path. And the final aim of all of this is so that you can work with your holomind perceiver to activate the telepathy and all of these amazing skills. We need to increase, we're evolving through our senses as well. So we're going to activate the clairaudience, clairvoyance, and all of these amazing things that we already have as part of our DNA, but you need to actively activate them.
And, the hollow mind perceiver maybe is a new phrase for many people, and it's one that I've sort of had around me for a while, but now it's I would say it's already activated and has been in me for a while, but I can even perceive it basically as a new type of technology that is there in my field that has got reactivated. And we can think of it as the halo, really, in the more sort of Judeo-Christian senses. That enlightened being is not to say, hey, I'm better than anybody else because I'm enlightened. What it really means is that I have more light in my field, and with that light I'm able to perceive more aspects of myself. I'm able to perceive that I'm a time traveler, a skywalker, that I'm avataring into not just this body but multiple other manifestations in other places too. So we can say that those more Buddha qualities, the siddhi skills, are actually starting to come online, and it's going to come online for everybody, and we're all going to be hollow mind perceivers and journeyers and time travelers maybe. But yes, in this moment I feel like the initiatory red glyphs, of which of course you are too, we've been asked to kind of create the pathway forwards, particularly as skywalkers who have a slightly more encoded sense that time is fluid, nothing is really quite how it is, and death and rebirth, life and death, they're really not so different once you start to understand them. They're just points of perception, actually. And as we move into the New Earth timeline more fully, we're all going to start to understand that we are not really what we've been guided to think that we are, or what we've even been programmed to think that we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's it. It sounds like it's a really good new moon, and the astrology is supporting us. The wave spell is really good. So if you do want to get activated, I'm still doing the sessions as well, the galactic signature readings until the 3rd of May. I'm including a free session if you purchase the course. So that's the latest.
Right, so highly recommend that, everybody. I know many people who've had the glyph readings from Bella recently have expressed their gratitude and their testimonials afterwards about how it's actually activated something within them, which of course is exactly what I've experienced with both the Mayan time stuff and the stellar nation stuff, but also my astrology. Every time I do these shows with you, Bella, kind of something gets activated in me because I'm following the energy threads according to not just the collective experience or the mundane, we can say, but also my own natal chart. I'm like, what's getting triggered in my chart? And it's teaching me more about myself and how I want to navigate. And we can all do that. And hopefully that's what this Quantum Compass show gives everybody. So I think that's really it for today, right?
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Take advantage of these amazing wave spell and the astrology supporting us. So fearlessness is the word. Go for it. Definitely go for it.
Right. And remember to stay grounded, stay centered, take one step at a time, enjoy each day as it comes. Don't try to get ahead of yourself because every moment can be enjoyed in its fullest extent. But also, as a final shout, just want to start encouraging people to check out our quantumplanet.world website and platform. We constructed that over 12 months ago, really for this moment that we're now in moving forwards, which is less about healing and doing the integration and shadow work and more about creativity and expansion. So with that in mind, we have some big plans, which we're going to share more about, I think, probably on the next wave spell, but around the Jupiter Cazimi, because we want to ride that wave for ourselves, but also with all of our brothers and sisters who've maybe already been on the journey with us, either with QPH or with the Mayan or Stellar Nations pathways on QPW, but also many of you who maybe just watch these shows and haven't dipped into what we're doing. It's a free to join group, and we'll be sharing more about the wonderful initiatives and people that we're going to be collaborating with, I think, very soon, right, Bella?
Yes. In Lakesh, I'm another yourself. So let's create something amazing.
All righty. Thank you so much, Bella. Thank you so much, everybody. And we'll see you all again in around 13 days' time for another episode of The Quantum Compass. Bye for now.
Bye.
So hi again, everybody. Just a quick little addendum to this edition of the Quantum Compass. I was so excited about the energies that we're working with this particular upcoming wave spell that I actually forgot to share with you all the card that I pulled for this wave spell. So I have been working with this wonderful pack, as I talked before, the Enchanted Map Oracle cards from the wonderful Colette Baron Reed. And I pulled the card for this particular wave spell for the Yellow Magnetic Warrior. And the card that I pulled was this, Movement. Now, I thought this was a really, really beautiful card because in many ways it sums up what me and Bella were just talking about there on the show. So as always, I'm just going to read to you the very short commentary that goes with this card. So, movement. You are in a time of positive forward motion. This is a time for positive momentum as you come out of a period of restriction. You're in a stage of new adventure and discovery. You may feel compelled to take a trip, or change your hair, or move your home or business. Regardless, you can't remain where you are anymore. You feel compelled to go forwards. No matter what your inquiry, you will see your dreams take form and doors that have previously shut begin to open as if by magic. Movement is also a state of mind. The fog lifts and you now know the actions that you need to take. This isn't the time for fear. Let it all go and move forwards. So apologies for not including that in the original recording, but here you go. I just wanted to share that because I think it is really, really beautiful. And just going to show again the wonderful illustration there of the emu with the windmill and the world on its back, and a sense of anything is possible in adventure. I love the motif of the hot air balloon as well, because that is us lifting off, one can say, and being free of the density that perhaps we've been carrying in the past. So thank you, everybody. Just wanted to share that. Please do tune into the energies as we just shared and really get excited about what's coming down the road. I think that we can all start to plan for a sense of adventure and some new beginnings. So see you all again very soon. Bye.